Are you feeling stuck in Fortnite? If so, this video is for you. Today, we're going to be talking about the physical, mental, and money considerations that will help you overcome your ranking and skill plateau we all have in Fortnite. Alright, so let's get straight into the video. The first thing I want to talk about today is overcomplicating fights. I know a lot of us aren't fighting as good as Peterbot, but still, these tips are going to be for everyone else. You want to make sure to stay aware of how much you're actually investing in winning a fight. So sometimes we overbuild, causing a loss of mats and ammo that will actually hurt us much later in the game. Other times, to be honest, we just take too long in a fight, causing us to ruin our rotation, positioning, and vulnerability to third parties. So this includes taking the wrong fights when we actually should be rotating. And this happens to me all the time. To improve this, assume that every player is good and do not underestimate their skills. So let's imagine that after this fight we take, we might not come out with as many resources as we previously had. So will you have enough time to refarm your mats, resources, and still make it to circle in time? Or will the circle begin closing in 15 seconds and the lobby is too stacked, they won't be forgiving and let us refarm? The next thing I want to bring up is to use your time wisely. So it's a common misconception to say that the more hours you put into something, the better you will be, which is true, but at a surface level. So in a competitive level, you need to be putting in deliberate hours. For example, like make sure you're using your time to actually improve. Focus on your weaknesses and strengthen them to become a real threat in tournaments. Alright, now let's talk about our mental barriers that are stopping all of us from improving in Fortnite. And the first one is ego. So understand that you need to see your weakness. A lot of players give excuses for why they're not placing or why they're losing fights. But in reality, this mindset actually blinds us from understanding why this is actually happening, why we're losing fights, and why we're not ranking. Ego can create bad habits because a player can think they're doing everything correct, but in fact, it's actually the opposite. But like next, let's talk about nerves and confidence. In game, it's easy to get nervous because the stakes are high, and there are a lot of good players and big cash prizes that are so close to get. Nervousness is common for everyone, but there are some tips to overcome this. First is practice. Hop in scrims, put yourself in tournament-like situations, because if you have been through a problem several times and overcome it, it is likely when you run into that situation again in a tournament, you will have a plan against it. Otherwise, being in an uncomfortable situation will cause panic. And the other tip is to chew gum. Chewing actually increases blood oxygen levels in the brain, and particularly in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, which just helps suppress stress-induced activation of the fight or flight nervous system. So chew gum. Alright, lastly, I want to bring up how money can actually help you push past that ceiling with PC upgrades. So higher frame rate reduces the time between input and on-screen action. For instance, if your game runs at 144 FPS instead of 60 FPS, the input from your mouse or keyboard results in a quicker response on screen. This makes the game feel more immediate and reactive. Overall, there's going to be less motion blur, increased responsiveness, and better visual clarity and detail. This actually even helps with aim. So it's a harsh truth, but money and upgrades on your PC actually does make you a better player.